Wow. Thank you for staying on time. Not within the. I do believe we've just covered though what we wanted from this session, which is a lot of different views from organizations that are really here to help you get things done. And I really can't emphasize that enough. As a person who's been on the other side of the funding, is that it's a partnership. And the funders need you as much as you need them, sort of. So, and if you can make things work really well, there's a lot that can happen. We have a half an hour now to talk. Just make one more comment. I was one of those speakers at your conference, I think in 2003 or 4, and I remember saying, we're going to start a this is my memory, we're going to start a leadership program for the state. And we're not sure quite what it's going to be, but we're going to start 4 classes here pretty soon. Look what's happened. We're at 3,500 graduates of the leadership classes, so a lot of time has passed. But Linda's foundation and the work they were doing was really kind of unique in this. It is unique in this state. It's very much about the capacity building that we've gotten involved in. Thank you. Are there questions for our panelists?
Is there some crossover between rural and urban funders? I'm just a little curious because some people work in both communities.
I'm not sure.
Do you want to direct that to anybody?
I'm not sure that I quite get what the question is. Are you trying to find out if foundations have priority areas for funding in rural communities or not?
I understand that you all have different priorities. You know, Shell has their counties, and you have whatever areas you serve. I guess I was just curious because being the rural conference, I was just curious whether there was much crossover into the into urban. I mean, how is Corvallis rural or is it urban, or I was just a little curious about the divide there between rural and urban.
You want to say something?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, we're all probably a little bit different, but as a state, with the Collins Foundation, as a statewide funder, we're looking at a range of projects from communities across the state, whether they're urban or rural. To us, it really doesn't matter. What we really care about, though, is ensuring that the dollars of the Collins Foundation make their way beyond Portland. Since Portland is so large, it could eat up all the money. But we really care about the whole state. And so making sure that those dollars make their way to rural Oregon is really important to us. And ensuring that we are helping to address community needs in all the communities of the state is also really important. So, yeah. And I would say we really also appreciate and are delighted to receive proposals from rural Oregon. We don't get as many of them as we do from the urban centers because there aren't as many nonprofits and there aren't as many people doing the work. But yeah, we love getting those requests. Thanks.
Can I answer from Meyer's perspective? Very similar to what Cynthia represents at the Collins Foundation, what she represented the Collins Foundation. The Meyer Memorial Trust serves all of Oregon and Clark County, Washington, and so our intent is that the service get out across that community. We love and always hold up that Collins Cynthia gets out so much across the state, and I'm so impressed that she's always, I feel like I've always followed her wherever she's gone. It's like, oh, Collins was just here. But Meyer has been intentional about doing outreach into rural to ensure that there is a balance. And in fact, the number of grants that that are awarded in terms of just number, there's more that goes into rural communities than it does in the Portland metro. But that doesn't play out in terms of dollars because projects tend to be bigger in the urban center.
And maybe I'll just contrast really quickly. Ford Family Foundation only gives grants in rural areas, and we define those as 30,000 or less. So people, 30,000 or less people. The exception or the gray line there is we do often fund from programs located in communities that are larger that serve rural areas. So Bend is a great example. We might fund something in Bend, but what we're looking for is access for our rural folks that are in communities of 30,000 or less. So a different approach. We don't do urban funding unless it's affecting rural.
Yes, I was just going to say, the Oregon Community Foundation is statewide, so we're funding all across the state, small communities, large, all of that. We do pay attention with the community grant program to sort of percentage of population in a particular area and the dollars headed there. We tend to do it regionally, but we're also taking a look county by county, and actually more dollars. I mean, the percentage of community grant dollars going to the Portland metro area is smaller than the population there. Which isn't to say we wouldn't welcome a grant application from an organization in Lake County. I mean, we've identified a lot of counties where we feel we're not getting enough grant requests. So.
Hi, I'm Ann Mitchell. I'm the executive director of the Oregon Paleolands Institute in Fossil. And first of all, I just want to thank all of you because we have been the recipients of grants and support from all the organizations that are represented. So thank you. But one of the things that, and especially thanks to Linda and Christy, is that they've helped us with consulting on how to put together projects that might be very successful in terms of trying to find funding in combination from the different funders. And we just received a grant from Meyer Memorial Trust, thank you, Sally, to help us with sustainable development planning. And so we've kind of partnered with a number of different foundations. But can you talk a little bit about how you kind of work together to look at projects and how each of your foundations might, how you work together, because I know that happens. So.
Could I say something about that? So often, funders, you'll hear from funders, well, we don't want to pay for the whole thing. And that's really very true, is that only because we don't have enough as an individual or a foundations to fund all the work that needs to be done. And even if we combined all of our corpuses and the money that went out, we wouldn't have enough to fund all of the work that could and should be done. And so we often, what rises to the top for us on projects are when you figured out what the project is, what your intent is behind the project, you know how much that project costs, and then you figured out, well, we're going to go after, we're going to raise some local dollars, and we're also going to go after maybe some business support, but also we're going to go after some foundation money, and we'll probably go after a couple of foundations because we know that, foundations don't want to take on that full responsibility. And so in the case of Paleolands Institute, they applied to Meyer and to I think at least 2 other foundations. Is that right, Ann? And so, that information is on the application. And so I might contact Ann and ask her what is the status of those grants, or where are they pending? Have you already applied? And I tell folks when I talk to them, funders, the same way that you talk to one another, funders often talk to one another because we can't always be everywhere. And so if I know that someone, especially OCF or Ford or Collins, because they are out there, I feel like a lot more than I'm able to get out there, I'll often call them and say that you were there. Can you tell me what's going on in that community? Is there something else that I should know that would help our trustees make a decision on this request? So did that get to what you were asking about, Ann? So that's one of the ways that foundations sort of, I guess, work together in terms of supporting a request.
Sure. Well, so on when we get in grant proposals. A lot of times we'll see another foundation has already provided funding, and then that's that's very appealing, of course, to see, just as Sally was saying, that we're not the only funders in there, and that's often a great opportunity for us to call up that funder and have that conversation so that we can learn more about the organization and more about the project if we're not that familiar with it. So that's one way that we collaborate with our, what we call our peer funders. And then on the other hand, there are times where we have actually are thinking about, say we've got a rural initiative that we want to move forward, that we may call up Sally and say, okay, well, here, we're moving forward with this. What are your thoughts? Or, you know, we could talk to Megan and do the same sort of thing so that as this thing is advancing, we're thinking about it together, so that maybe when we get in a place where we're going to issue a request for proposal, that we're all at the table together. That does happen too.